Hey everyone, it's Podpocalypse. It's been a while, but we finally have an update. I'm going to be doing a two-for-oneer today. I'm going to go over really briefly the long-term update on the AT82 tires because they're quite expensive, especially compared to the Tusks and the IRCs of the world. So I think it might be valuable to tell you why I'm actually replacing them after only 20 hours. The second thing, we got the ERM. I ended up opting to do the entire kit for the two-stroke performance. So we'll just go take a look really quick. We went with the expansion chamber power valve cover thingamajig, something about supercharging and the shockwave and blah, blah, blah. And we also, if you can see it, have the high comp TSP head. So we have the high comp insert and the TSP custom head, which is supposed to reduce temperature a little bit. I don't know, you could probably just buy the insert, it's not a big deal. I will be coming out with a separate video after giving you my initial impressions on that in this video. So, okay, we're in the pink chair today. I know, you're jealous, it's okay. Wanted to take a look at the front AT82 first. So this has been the best of the bunch. If you're going to pick an AT82 tire to run, definitely recommend the front. The back is give or take, and we'll get there in a second and tell you why. This is an 8100 super skinny tire, extremely, extremely competent in intermediate and soft terrain. It's a little bit washy now that the hours have gone up, and I think that's one of the reasons I'm probably going to replace it pretty soon. I might replace it at the same time as the back, which by the way, if it interests you, upcoming, I'm going to be doing the VE35 front, the non-gummy version, and I'm going to do the VE33 back non-gummy version. So those are enduro cross-country racing tires. Let's briefly take a look at some of these knobs. So unlike the MX34 and MX33, the castle knobs on the AT82 have really held up, which I'm super impressed by. And then there's still some square edges on the center knobs, and those take the brunt of the work because as you can see, they're protruded up. One thing I want to point out though, it's not going to show up on camera very well. And we'll get to the back in a second, which will really be pronounced. These suffer from heating up quite a bit if you ride on forest roads or flat two-track, whatever you're doing to get out to the trails. Just be mindful of that. These do not like the heat. You can see a bit of kind of dark coloration there from where they're overheating. And I actually think that's the main thing that has contributed to these being a bit washy now that they have 20 hours, is these lugs, when they attempt to hook up, they got a bit of a taper right there now from going on all of the hard pack. Anyway, just wanted to point that out. As you can see, it still looks pretty good overall. Whoa, we're going to the back. Okay, so this is going to be the most disappointing update. So I believe I gave this a 7.5 or 8 out of 10 originally. The front is a 9.5. That tire for the first 15 hours, unbelievably good. The back leaves a little bit to be desired. As you can see, we got chunks there, this chunking, this knob's going, these knobs are going, that chunked for whatever reason. There's some, this one's almost completely gone. I'm gonna have to downgrade the original score I gave for the long-term reliability. This tire is like a 6.5 out of 10. And I think if you can tell, it's got that heated up rubber look. You can just tell it kind of looks dry, like it's got dry rot. That's from all of the hard terrain riding into all of the single track that I do. So that's a bit unfortunate. It's advertised as an all-terrain tire, which I would think, I mean, it's not built for hard pack for very long, stretches of time, but definitely a disappointment, very much like the AT81. So they're using the same compound or similar compound, which leaves a little bit to be desired for the long-term reliability. The first 5 to 10 hours of the AT82, I actually like the hard configuration forward instead of the soft configuration, full disclosure, but it's really good and it brakes so freaking good because of these tall center knobs. But yeah, the durability. Okay, as promised, we have the ERM. I teased that in a couple of the previous videos I did. What's the verdict? To recap, high compression, power valve cover, and then we have the 2024 trail map from Two Stroke Performance. So believe it or not, my first impressions of the ERM was actually quite negative. It really tames the thing, and they tell you in the description, by the way, of the map, they're like, this is going to tame the power curve and whatnot, and the power valve's going to open slower. It's really going to make it less of a fire-breathing drag and more of a trail bike. But even though they watered down my expectations, I was a little bit disappointed with the trail map. The downside is, I'm sure they would maybe give me a free map if I complain, but if you want to buy the MX map, I'm familiar with the auto industry, and if you've ever dealt with reflashing ECUs for auto, they'll charge you like $700 for reprogramming your ECU. But the fact that we have to deal with that on dirt bikes now, Two Stroke Performance, love the work they do. They want 150 Australian dollars for a binary file, which I personally, that really pissed me off. I spent almost $1,000 and I'm not really too impressed with the stock trail map. But let's get into the positives. I don't want to sit here and whine like a little butthead. What would you even call it? The quarter throttle lag or kind of gurgliness, basically completely gone. It now tractors like a complete monster. However, I had to go in and do some custom flashing, tune their tune for lack of a better word. Second and third gear, you can stay in longer with this map. I will say it gets a little gurgly and you get that like brrr, because you're tempted to stay in the gear because it's going and it's getting traction, but you're not in that RPM range or in the torque band that you want. So it takes a little bit getting used to. Highly encourage you to ride the bike for 2 to 3 hours before making any changes because it takes a bit of adjusting. The explosiveness of the TX/XC gets watered down a bit. So if you want that, definitely a positive of the ERM kit. Now, is it worth the price of admission? That is a tough one for me. It runs really good, but I would say the only thing I really got out of this for the $900 I spent, a lot of money for me. And I didn't need to get the power valve cover, but it looks cool, and I read the description, made sense to me. And I want torquiness. I'm doing a bit slower terrain lately, but I gotta say, I was quite happy with the stock map. It sucks having to pay this amount of money. I would honestly, so for this to make sense, I would rather have just sent in my ECU and had it reflashed just to get rid of the quarter throttle blubber and the richness down low. And I honestly would have been completely happy with that. I will say there are some advantages to having the ERM. It gives you a dash with all of the information. It tells you how the percentage of throttle that's open. It tells you battery volt. It has all of these different widgets. It makes it incredibly useful for diagnosing your bike. And it can even read the trouble codes, so that's pretty cool. All right, I think we'll stop rambling there. That's my impressions of the ERM. Subscribe if you're interested in the upcoming video, and remember, we have the VE35 front and VE33 coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm gonna try and get 10 hours or so on those and throw up that review. And yeah, the AT82 rear, it's not a, but it's kind of like a man. $110 tire only lasts 20 hours, and I'm honestly not really roosting it that much. So until next time, guys.